back on the Morning Brew with friends. I love this. How cool is Rob? Yeah. He's just building sounds, building these songs right as we are here. I love it. Yeah. This is Gary Schoeniger, and Gary's in town for a couple of very special talks.
Yep.
You had one last night with the mayor, C&M, and a bunch of folks.
Yep.
And tomorrow you're going to be at the ABQID Business Accelerator talking about things. You're going to be helping mentor some entrepreneurs here in town.
Yep.
And Gary is the author of, it's called The Ice House.
Who Owns the Ice House?
Who Owns the Ice House. And
Right.
it's one of the grand entrepreneurial books. Right. I love this. You went across the globe to find people who have this mindset that is different from kind of the general entrepreneur, right?
Correct.
And tell us a little bit about that, first of all.
So the idea, Dan, is like, I've always been intrigued with entrepreneurs. Like, how do they turn nothing into something?
Because you did that.
Yeah. I mean, I did it myself, but I kind of looked at entrepreneurs and said they think differently. Mm-hmm. And if we could somehow understand, like, deconstruct the mindset,
right,
this could empower people. Like, the entrepreneurs do amazing things, right? And so, well, what we quickly realized is, like, curriculum in the classroom doesn't really match the reality.
Right.
And there wasn't really a curriculum that adequately explained how they do it.
Write your business plan, go to the bank, do the pro formas that don't really mean anything.
And that's not really what entrepreneurs are doing. And we spent a couple of years with a film crew going all over. First started in the U.S. and worked with Cisco Entrepreneur Institute in San Jose, but interviewed hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs. Now we've interviewed entrepreneurs all over the world, and not necessarily the Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Richard Bransons. Those to me are like the lottery winners. Mm-hmm. What I'm interested in is the everyday person that doesn't have access to resources, doesn't have a world-changing idea. How do they do that?
Well, you were just telling me about one of the guys who you met in Brazil.
Yeah.
And this is a cool story, and it's just about how some guy realized that he actually had a business and was able to create something bigger out of just his hobby.
Right. And that's what, we see these stories in the media, the Mark Zuckerberg stories,
right.
and we start to think that entrepreneurship's like a lottery.
Right.
Like, you get an idea and it's all about the idea and it takes off and all of a sudden you're rich, and it's not really matching with the reality when you look beneath the surface.
If it was that easy, we'd all be doing it.
Correct.
So what did you find out in your research, and then what brought you to Albuquerque to talk about it?
So it's taken me 20 years to do this, but what we did is we started with about 400 what I'll call unlikely entrepreneurs. The subtitle of the book is 8 Life Lessons from an Unlikely Entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
So what we did was, what's common among all of them? Their stories are all very different circumstances, different types of businesses, a different resource, different ambition, whatever.
Yeah.
But there's this fundamental logic that was common among most or all of them.
And that is the mindset.
And that's what's in our book, in the 8 Life Lessons from an Unlikely Entrepreneur. 8 fundamental concepts. And here's the exciting thing, Dan. It's so deceptively simple, right?
How so?
Well, the core logic is a very simple idea that, anybody can empower themselves by figuring out how to solve problems for other people, right? Mm-hmm. And so, the book Ice House is about a guy from the segregated South, has a 4th or 5th grade education, is not allowed in the bank, yet he managed to own all these businesses because he just observes what people need and figures out a way to provide it for them.
And ice is one of those things.
Ice is one of those things, yeah.
That's very cool. So how did you end up in Albuquerque?
So, what's happening here in Albuquerque is, I'm blown away.
It's mind-blowing, right? We have the
really
ABQID Accelerator. We have the whole Innovation District, Innovation Corridor, Innovate ABQ going on downtown. There is a movement afoot to create entrepreneurs and make Albuquerque an entrepreneurial city.
There isn't. What blows me away, what the mayor is doing to empower city officials with an entrepreneurial mindset is astonishing. And people think, that's oxymoronic, right?
How can a city official be an entrepreneur?
Right. It seems like an oxymoron. But, you sort of alluded to this in your comment. This is a mindset, like, we're not really teaching anything. We're just unleashing something that is in most people.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Where people want to solve problems. They want to be engaged in their work. They want to have a voice.
And that's really the entrepreneurial mindset, is the idea of wanting to solve the problems, not necessarily start a business and become a billionaire.
Right. That's it. And so many people I encounter, I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs. I could sit here all week and tell you amazing stories.
Right.
But it often starts with this line: I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right? I kind of stumbled into it. I kind of scratching away, figured it out, and now look, I got 400 employees, and who knew?
Right.
That's the real story, right?
Well, last night at the event with the mayor, you brought on a couple of folks from the city who had some very cool ideas, and it's a simple thing. These guys were in the class that you guys were teaching at CNM.
Yep.
And a couple of city employees who were struggling with the idea of how do we keep graffiti off bus stops, and that was their kind of problem they had to solve.
Right.
And they realized that, hey, why can't we have people adopt a bus stop? Why can't we have people adopt a shelter?
Right.
Why can't it work like the median programs? Why can't it work like everything else?
Right.
And it turns out that's a program that's been done other places, but now they're already just steps away from getting the city council to approve it.
Right.
And that's the idea that you're trying to get after, is helping people realize there are problems we can solve just by changing our mindset, right?
So Dan, you're a journalist, so you'll appreciate this. I've kind of taken a journalistic approach to this. I've interviewed all these entrepreneurs, the unlikely entrepreneurs, and the message I have for people is that entrepreneurs are ordinary people, just like you and just like me. They have slightly different mindset. Mm-hmm. And slightly different habits that over a long period of time leads them in a very different direction.
Is that something that is taught? Is that something that is learned? Is that something that you have to have a critical moment in your life happen for you to realize it? Do you have to there are those stories like yourself. You said you were kind of down and out. All you had at the moment was a car and a borrowed ladder, and then you turned that into a gutter cleaning business. It turned into a construction business.
Right.
I mean, you had to reach a certain point of desperation to borrow that ladder.
Resource constraint and pain are common, right? There's some factor that moves you off of the status quo.
Right.
Whether it's some kind of, extreme dissatisfaction with the status quo, or whether there's something very compelling on the horizon that you see. I like to say, whether you got pushed in the pool or you jumped in the pool, really doesn't matter.
Either way, you're in the pool.
But you kind of develop the mindset by being in the pool. Yeah. Right? And so I'll flip the question on you. Non-entrepreneurial behavior is learned.
Right. It's the thing we learn in school.
Right.
It's the thing a lot of our parents teach us is go to school, get your degree, get your job, be safe.
And so what comes from that is this sort of mild form of learned helplessness. Right?
Yeah.
You see a guy with an MBA as a barista in a Starbucks. Like, what is that?
Right.
Right?
Right.
This is somebody that's highly educated, but
there's nothing wrong with that, because a lot of people just have high job satisfaction rates.
Hey, if you're satisfied, fine, great. The point is, you get to decide which floor you want to get off on.
Right.
Right.
Right. So, how do you break that cycle, or do you even want to break that cycle? I mean, is it important to teach people in school there are alternatives to that traditional path?
So we developed a curriculum that's been schools, high schools, community colleges, four-year universities all over the world. It's been translated into multiple languages. And the idea is very simple. We're really good at teaching delivery skills.
Right.
And what the world needs now are discovery skills.
Okay.
And that's kind of entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
It's discovery.
So I know that you're here in Albuquerque to give these talks, but you're also here because Albuquerque has embraced kind of it's the entrepreneurial mindset curriculum.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And this is something you developed yourself.
Yep.
And it's now being taught at CNM.
Yep.
And to the city employees, to others, anybody in town, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how that kind of came to be here.
So Mayor Barry has decided, to make Albuquerque the most innovative entrepreneurial city in the United States. And they looked at our curriculum and said, yeah, we want to put 100 of our city employees through this, right? Mm-hmm. And this is intriguing to me.
Right.
So I want to say, what's going on over here? And some of the results I've seen from the people, like we saw last night,
right.
It's just amazing, and it just reinforces the idea. This is a natural inclination within most human beings.
Right.
To create the environment.
So where can folks find out a little bit more about this? I know you got a couple of websites, a couple of everything.
So you can find our book on Amazon. It's called Who Owns the Ice House? 8 Life Lessons from an Unlikely Entrepreneur. We're also at EliMindset.com. ELIMindset.com.
That's excellent. And Rob will take us out here again this morning. We love it, Rob.
Nothing but blue sky to nothing but blue.